Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are talking wrestling news and we are live right now on YouTube, Twitch and of course on Twitter as well, now known as X, but I still call it Twitter because I'm old and infirm and literally cannot do anything else. It's an exciting new time for the Tom Colohue channels, primarily the success on YouTube of more than 1 million views in the course of a year. What I've done is put focus now into multi-streaming. I'm going to be looking at trying to get TikTok live launched. I'm going to be looking at YouTube Shorts live. Basically, if you can go live, I'm going to try and go live on it. And just to make sure there's no confusion, we are going to be sharing that wealth. At this point, if X is not working for me, I'm going to have to abandon X because I kept getting told that it was going to be the future, that it was going to be the be-all and end-all, that if I started paying money for it, I'd have nothing but views. And that is simply not the case. So I'm trying something new. I'm trying to get more views on the platform by simply putting the word out there. So what I want to do, the go live is right there. It is literally right there on the Twitter platform. If you follow me there, jump in. There's already 10 people there. The more we can get, the faster we grow there. I'm going to drop a link right there in the YouTube channel. Now, you don't have to leave YouTube to do this. My suggestion simply is open both and mute one, because if more of you are currently watching this show, then this show will be advertised to people who do not follow me. That's how this one works. That's why they support not multi-streaming when it comes to the good old-fashioned Twitter machine. The idea being, quite simply, if you want to grow, get people who aren't following you watching. If you are following and you are watching, then the people who follow you will have this show advertised to them. So, welcome Michael, thank you very kindly. A 44th month, you continue to be the yardstick. Thank you, pardon me, for another very generous donation. So as I was saying, we are aiming at this point to simply do more channels, more streaming. That is one of the reasons we are right now not monetized on YouTube. We're not going to try and get round anything. We're not going to try and monetize without being monetized. What we're going to do is take advantage of growth options that are available until the end of the year, now that we have hit more than 1 million views and we can focus on them. That's YouTube Shorts live dual streaming, that is TikTok live I'm going to work towards, and that is of course Twitch and Twitter, as we already do. So if you're able to watch both on YouTube and on Twitter, even just mute the Twitter one, have it in the background, that will mean that people can find me who wouldn't necessarily know where to look before. Now that we've got through all of that, let's start talking about what the plan is today, because there is plenty of news as always to cover and plenty of reason you should be tuning in. We're going to start by talking about the alternative sports promotion that Vince McMahon is looking to build and why, unfortunately, Donald Trump is key to that. We're going to talk Triple H wanting to end the brand split, early plans for Lance Anoa'i. Personal news, a little bit of a recap as to what I've just covered. Elimination Chamber now confirmed for Canada, why it didn't go to the UK. Dave Meltzer reporting War Games will be 4v4. Cheers, Dave. Jonathan Coachman being completely wrong. Jacob Fatu and the complete nonsense flying around him. Hulk Hogan recently contacted the WWE. We'll talk about why. And the status of Mandy Rose with the WWE. The status of Mandy Rose with the WWE. So, plenty to check out. Plenty to check out. We are, of course, as mentioned, looking to grow on multiple platforms over the next 2 months. I'm seeing plenty of people saying they're following me on TikTok now. Please do so if you haven't already. Make sure you're followed on X, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Twitch, all of those things. If you have them, don't go out of your way. If you're a busy person, that's absolutely fine. But I very much appreciate it. I've got pinned comment on YouTube being the Twitter launch, and the more views we can get there, obviously, the better for the growth on Twitter. If I can gain even 5 new followers from this show, it will justify continuing to do so. Our top story is the return of Vince McMahon to the public domain, and this is something that's been a long time coming. You see, despite the allegations against Vince McMahon has been typically bullish in his responses. He openly has stated on multiple occasions that the allegations are complete fabrications, and he is fighting it tooth and nail and is expected to continue doing so. Part of this means that, for the sake of his public image, PR will always advise him to abandon staying in the shadows, to get out there into the public domain, and to essentially guarantee that the public support him because he doesn't act guilty. With this in mind, Vince McMahon is said to be putting together pitches for an alternative sports promotion. I've tried to get more details. I've tried to find out if it's wrestling. The only thing I'm being told is it is an alternative sports promotion. And as I said last week, a lot of it did depend on the arrival of Donald Trump for the presidency. With Trump elected, he is now president-elect. McMahon is said to feel assured, and suggestions are that it's now safe for him to emerge back into the wrestling world. In fact, it's not just Vince McMahon that are getting this out there. TKO Executives, the parent company of WWE that was originally set up by Vince McMahon, have recently been a lot more open about meeting with Vince about his income and shares in the company, suggesting that this is true, otherwise I probably would not be reporting it. Vince McMahon is looking to step back into the public eye with essentially the support of Donald Trump and launch an alternative sport promotion. That is what I'm hearing, that is what I'm sharing, and that was our top story. Let's catch up with the chat as we continue with our show. Spider-Boss says, hello Tom, when do you think we could see Rio on TV again in the build-up for WrestleMania? Daniel says, how are we doing, Tom? Doing very well, thank you, Daniel. Welcome to the show, good to see you. Rickan says, do you think Zilla is the WWID signing on Saturday? No, I think he's already signed. HCar says, hi Tom and chat. Welcome, HCar. Spider-Boss says it was cool, a segment of Mercedes and Chris Statlander on this week's AEW Dynamite. A lot of people have been very upset with Mercedes' money for some reason. What I will say, since arriving in AEW, she's really actually connected with people. We have 66 people on the YouTube, only 22 likes. Let's keep this ball rolling. Khalid says, hey Tom, mate, happy to see you again. Welcome, Khalid. And Declan says, Liv and Raquel winning the tag titles against Jade and Bianca. Possibly, I don't think so yet. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat. Welcome, Marcel. Bailey says, Tom, your thoughts on your Twitter post? My thoughts on what I've said. Is this good for the lower card? Puts even more pressure on them to perform or get future endeavoured. There will be a little more as regards the brand split coming very shortly. Kieran says, so is it Hikuleo and Lance to Bloodline 3.0? Hikuleo, they're not certain about. They're really not certain about the future of Hikuleo. They're going to wait and see what happens essentially with NXT. HCar says Goldberg's final match is confirmed, reported by ESPN. Thank you for sourcing. Spider-Boss says it was good to see Adam Pearce clap back at Liv Morgan on Raw. Rosal says, hello Tom, been a long and depressing week for obvious reasons, but seated for spoiler warning, hope everyone else is well. To be clear, not asking if everyone's sitting down, but you know, everyone's well. And I hope everyone is. Thank you, Rosal. Cecil says, let's start here. What do you mean, Bo? What do you think Bo meant? We aren't interested in Final Testament, we wanted you. I don't think that could possibly be any more obvious. They weren't interested in Final Testament, they just wanted The Miz. Spider-Boss says, do you think WWE could break up Bianca and Jade? I think they will. Kieran says, should be 1 million subs, I tell you, it's not fair to Flair. Appreciate that, but we are where we are. I am far from the biggest wrestling YouTuber, but you know what? We are bigger than we've ever been before, and I'm damn proud of what we've been able to achieve here. Khalid says, I follow you on TikTok, keep up the great content. Thank you, Khalid, appreciate you. Declan says, Liv and Raquel versus Rhea and Becky for the tag titles at WrestleMania would be cool. In which case, who's the women's champion? Alyssa says, WWE is very happy Cody Rhodes as champion. Don't see drop title soon, win Crown Jewel Championship, looks big star right now. Which in many ways is exactly what I've been saying. Declan says, watch the pig. Always watch that pig. Spider-Boss says, Jerry Coachman saying Becky left WWE because she wanted more money is just BS. More on that shortly. HCar says, any news on Dustin Rhodes' contract? Nope, I've never had any, unfortunately. Jerry on the X side, welcome to the show, says, who do you think will beat Cody Rhodes for the WWE title? Personally, I have Randy Orton being the one to defeat Cody Rhodes. I expect it after WrestleMania. I still expect to see Cody versus The Rock at WrestleMania. Calvin says, have you heard about people blaming WWE for Donald Trump being elected? WWE is notoriously right-wing. The vast majority of fans are right-wing of the WWE. That means they're preternaturally disposed to voting for Trump. There's no correlation beyond that. Republicans like violence. I'm not a Republican. I also like violence. That says, Tom, any AEW news also about when Darby will face Moxley? Not at this point, though John Moxley is trying to make sure Darby Allin gets as much of the rub as possible. John Moxley's basically rubbing as much as he possibly can. Hector says, Tom, if you're no longer using monetization on YouTube for the time being, would you consider looking into merch options again? We will support you regardless, but I think it would be a good idea for you. It's definitely something I do want to explore again. I need to talk to Sai about this. Hopefully we get that over the line at some point soon. He's been an absolute star for me personally, and I'm excited to spend more time working with him in the near future. Merch ideas, certainly. Sponsorship ideas. These next 2 months are about taking pressure off. I don't want to be essentially chasing the ads and the clickbait and trying to get more people into the YouTube side. I want to spread the love a bit more. I want to get the word out there. I want to find new avenues of giving people entertainment that, yes, funnels them into the YouTube, as the YouTube is where I make the money, but I don't want to be putting pressure on myself. In January, we have a relaunch. Kieran says, Vince, I speak for everyone and I say, do want your plum. Daz says, watch the pig. HCar says, any news on the WWE Hall of Fame? Not as of yet. Triple H tends to come with his ideas very late. He's a very late comer. Tony says, Tom, is it possible Alexa will return as a heel character? Yes. Will it happen? Probably not. Mr. Sim says, who do you think WWE want to sign from TNA? Several of them have already been approached. Joe Hendry's one of them. Jordan Grace is another. Rosemary is unlikely to be signed. Chris says, happy 23rd birthday to House of Black's Julia Hart. She's so very young and so very good. HCar says, Tom, WWE 2K25 is being late 2025 reported by Take-Two. Thank you, HCar, for sourcing. Actually, I don't know what's going to happen there, but I would say I'm going to avoid speculation just yet. Marcel says, very happy WWE now coming to Europe with live shows and TV shows in March. Yeah, the original plan was indeed going to the UK for a big show, but other things are in the pipeline. Angel says, what's Liv doing for Survivor Series? Is the EO match happening on Raw or Survivor Series? Hard to say. I suspect EO's been parachuted in to replace Rhea Ripley because they still wanted a War Games match featuring Rhea Ripley, but she's now out of the picture. I suspect EO's been parachuted in to that spot because she's pretty reliable in War Games. Declan says, I miss the 4 horsewomen in WWE. Right now, just Bayley. But to be fair, 2 more will be returning soon. Dog Knight says, good evening. Good evening, Dog Knight. Michael says, Tegan's booked for Attack Pro Wrestling in the UK. Does she not have a 90-day non-compete? It is possible that she negotiated in her release a waiver of that non-compete. It's also possible that she's making an appearance and not wrestling. Corey says, what in the world is going on with the Malachi Black stuff? The way I've had it described to me is that, unfortunately and very frustratingly, the man historically goes into business for himself a lot more than the people in the back are comfortable with. He wants out, and I believe he's trying to make that happen. 29 likes on YouTube. One more gets us to 30. Let's keep that ball rolling. Spiderboss says, people on social media can say anything they want about Mercedes, but Mercedes has helped a lot for the AEW women's division to get more TV time, segments, and storylines, and it is almost impossible to argue with that. Rickan says, when do you think we'll see the Bloodline 3.0 after WrestleMania? Way after WrestleMania. Way after. Way after. The other Mike says, if it is another wrestling brand, no way performers are signing up for it without controversy and shame. To be fair, many of the performers who would automatically sign up to it already have plentiful shame and controversy. Sid says, do you think Roman will accept Sammy in the Bloodline? Yeah. Get the tables, welcome. Says, Red on Twitter, forgive me not remembering the source. Jade and Bianca don't get along backstage. Any truth to that? No. To my knowledge, there has never been any issue with Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. If I hear of any, I'll be sure to report it. But as far as I'm aware, everything is going well. Calvin says, I can imagine if Nick Aldis suspends Randy Orton, Randy will RKO him and leave Nick flat on his back like last year. Not right now, Nick Aldis is still injured. Michael says, quoting PWInsider, thank you for sourcing, there are absolutely plans in place for SmackDown and Raw to both be 3 hours as of January, with discussions of adding some talents from NXT to the roster at that point. I have been talking about call-ups being expected soon. Bailey says, watching on YouTube, Twitch and Twitter. Is Instagram live next? I mean, it's something worth considering. I've never really worked with Instagram. I've never really put the effort into that. It's one of those where I know I'm asking a lot of you guys, but if you guys are watching me on 4 or 5 things, the people who follow you will find me. Before you know it, that group will diversify. And if I find 5 people on Instagram, that's 5 more people who could come over to YouTube. 5 people on TikTok coming over to YouTube, etc., etc. By the time we relaunch in January, we've got a hell of a lot of people here. One says, speaking of Donald, moving on from that, it's a wrestling thing, so as long as if it's not related to wrestling, I won't be reading out anything as regards the presidential election. Dominic says, hi Tom, when do you think Tiffany Stratton will cash in? Anything from Nakamura? Thank you. I think Tiffany Stratton will cash in before WrestleMania. I'm expecting around Royal Rumble time. As regards Nakamura, he's happy. Spiderball says, WWE so happy with Cody, and also WWE made Cody Mr. Rematches. Corey says, Tom, do you know what's going on with Malachi Black? Weird reports shut down by him this week. The whole deal is just weird. Everything I've reported has always been consistent. I expect Malachi Black to run down his contract and leave AEW in order to return to the WWE. Personally, from where I'm sitting, I think his head has been turned. Shower Game says, happy Friday, Tom. Not really a question, more of a manifestation. An Evolution 2 PLE booked by HBK would be phenomenal. It's clear he's better than Triple H at booking women. Xavier says, always be happy, Tom. Appreciate you, Xavier. It's a very nice thing to say. I'll never wrestle alone. Interesting, Dog Knight. Does give away a bit of my loyalties, though. Cecil says, I'd love merch. When I tell people about you, they get excited. Merch would really help that. Spoiler warning, Tom, Speaker True shirt, black with white letters. We do have a spoiler warning logo design that Size made for me that I could potentially put out there. As part of the Streamlabs setup that I have, they essentially run a merch shop for me. And as I've signed up to the Streamlabs service, which allows me to multi-stream using their system, I do get a free merch store. So really, I'm sort of wasting time by not doing it, but that's why I'm trying to take the pressure off for the last 2 months. I still have a lot of stuff to do at the house. It's not really pressure off. It's a very hectic time, but slowly but surely, it's all coming together. Hector says, with CM Punk posting more about the WWE ID program, I have a good feeling he might be more involved than most people think. He's not. Chris Leclerc says, Bayley versus Candice LeRae tonight on SmackDown. Kieran says, I hear Malachi does things that were far more egregious than that Hangman promo to Punk. I've said what I've said, personally. Spiderboss says, Malachi Black denied the rumours of him leaving AEW on his last IG story this week. To be clear, there weren't really any rumours, there was just complete guesswork and speculation. Calvin says, have you seen Austin Theory's interview with Chris Van Vliet? Not as of yet. Michael says, first person signed to Vince's company, Brock Lesnar. You're not wrong. Marcel says, I'm going to WWE Raw Brussels, first time at live TV show, and to WWE Live in Amsterdam 1 week later, still hoping for a Raw, SmackDown or PLE in the Netherlands Sunday. That says, will Jay be on SmackDown tonight? That is a plan, yes. Bob Loft on Twitter says, who do you think has the best women's division, WWE, AEW, TNA or NWA? Curiously, I do think NXT at the moment has the best women's division, so technically that comes under the WWE umbrella, though historically, TNA has done some very good things. I think AEW's division has the most potential, but it's going to take the most work to get them there. Kieran says, please tell me we get an Austin Theory face push in late 2025. Bit of a way. Alyssa says, do you see Bloodline storyline end until presidential election? I don't see any relation whatsoever. HCar says, any news on Rey Mysterio? Yes, he is still around. Declan says, I miss WWE The Bump on YouTube. There's a gap there that someone could fill if they could get the guests. Sports Illustrated should be all over that. Bad Boys says, hi Tom, please tell me with which kind of character Alexa will return. Initially, she'll just be Alexa Bliss, i.e. Lexi Kaufman. Calvin says, Motor City Machine Guns will be on the Grayson Waller effect tonight. I imagine Sabin and Shelley will try to convince Theory and that Grayson is using him, and it will lead to a brawl like usual. Yeah, Motor City Machine Guns are coming in a house of fire, but they're still joining the WWE. I wouldn't have the highest of expectations. Bob says, Moose won the TNA X Division title against Mike Bailey. The man's getting the wins. And one says, Malachi Black's decision to want to leave, is it mainly Triple H returning, or is it TK's bad booking? He wants to return to rejoin Triple H. Part of the booking problems are Malachi Black. Ken says, hey Tom, I haven't been able to catch you live in a while. Hope all is well. All is very well, thank you, Ken. Welcome to the show. Declan says, Triple H says, is scrapping the brand split allowing main roster to work on NXT? Is this true? If Triple H said it, you could confirm whether it was true without coming to me, Declan. If he said it, there'd be a clip. Who said he said that? Thomas says, hi Tom, is there any truth to the Malachi Black leaving AEW rumours? Only what I've already said, which is that I expect him to leave AEW once his contract runs down. Laurie says, I heard a rumour Finn Balor will leave the Judgment Day and that Dirty Dom will try to take over the head spot. There isn't the head spot. Finn Balor himself has said there are no leaders. Yeah. Shard Game says, sorry if you already answered this. I came in a bit late. Do you have any news on Penta joining WWE? I do not. Get the Table says, how serious is the Street Profits news coming out, or is this a possible storyline developing? What news is that? Is the news that their contracts are starting to run down? Because that's true. That's true. But as far as I'm aware, that's the only news that's actually come out on this. I personally don't see them signing a new deal because they've had a pretty rough ride recently, but I'm not aware of anyone reporting that they intend to do so. Next piece of news. I've heard plentiful suggestions that Triple H wants to end the brand split. So yes, while I haven't seen anyone report that he's said that, I am aware of several people who have told me that Triple H wants to end the brand split. The evidence that they provided has been substantial, and for many of us, we've seen it with our own eyes. Netflix are pitching the idea of all of the big stars going onto their shows, but in reality, so's USA. So is everyone. Everyone always wants the top stars, but there is no negotiation of, oh, as part of the deal, you need to do this. As part of this, you need to do this. No. The Netflix deal happened, and then they said, oh, we can get Roman Reigns at some point. Triple H wants to give them that. He's never been a fan of the brand split. He likes having people appear on NXT. He likes having people from NXT appear on the main roster. He wants to use the main roster to enhance the star power of his NXT talent. He wants to use NXT to get that rating popped by using bigger name stars in it. CM Punk, Randy Orton have both said they want to spend more time in NXT as well, and Triple H wants to smooth that transition. He also wants to be able to take someone who's not really succeeding on Raw and a month later have them appear on SmackDown, because at the moment, if it's not working and there's no space on Raw, they simply have to sit there and suffer for a year. And that simply does not work for him. Triple H is looking to end the brand split. I suspect around January it will quietly be forgotten. Thomas says, how long is Malachi Black's contract? Last reports from Raj Giri were early 2025, which is not long at all. Got to get the tables. The frustration of Montez Ford. I can in fact confirm that to be true. The Street Profits have not been given a lot. They were excited to be working with Bobby Lashley, but the entire storyline was kind of forgotten very quickly. Not much was done to actually enhance what they were able to achieve. So yes, it's awkward for everyone involved. Spiderball says House of Black was doing well as AEW Trios champions, but then House of Black slowly turned babyface and everything went downhill. Yes, Calvin, I was aware of that. What's up, KJ? HGL says, any news on Survivor Series matches yet? Only the War Games matches that I've already spoken about. Hector says, my biggest issue with the whole Malachi situation is his actions cause everyone to speculate, yet it makes it seem like it's everyone else. He's just making things up, rather that's injury or him leaving. Let me talk to you about this, because I've had history of Malachi Black. I reported, not long after his call-up, particularly when there were no crowds, that there were concerns about his presentation. That Vince McMahon wanted to offer some tweaks to his presentation, to get rid of the raising chair, to make him less dark and broody, in order to try and be more relatable to fans, which is one of the reasons he worked as sort of a sidekick to Rey Mysterio in feuds with Seth Rollins for so long. What actually happened was that this was completely misinterpreted, because that's what I reported. Several people decided to re-report it as Vince McMahon loses faith in Aleister Black, which is not what I reported. If anything, it's the opposite of what I reported. Vince McMahon wanted to make sure Aleister Black still got plenty of TV time and wanted to make some tweaks to make him more relatable to the audience. This became a problem. So, what's his name? Alex McCarthy, working for TalkSport, messaged me in the DMs and said, hi, just wanted to give you a heads up. I'm going to share a story which disputes what you've said, and I'm going to name you in it, which is massively insulting and massively unnecessary. Firstly, What he actually reported was Vince McMahon has not lost faith in Aleister Black. He just would like to make some tweaks to his character and presentation to make him more relatable, which is exactly what I had reported. But he named me in that report to TalkSport to thousands upon thousands of people, and it was shared by the Fightfuls and all the like to make me look like a fucking idiot. The evidence is still there, still easy to find, still very easy to find. You want confirmation? Go find it. You literally just got to search Tom Colohue, Aleister Black. Later, when Aleister Black was released, he went on to Twitch and addressed rumours that someone had made up about him, that Vince McMahon had lost faith in him, that it just wasn't true. What he said to deny my reporting was that what actually happened was that Vince McMahon wanted to make some tweaks to his personality and presentation to make him more relatable to the audience. He also called out Fightful, and let's just say Fightful took a victory lap because Malachi Black was proven wrong. So I have history of Malachi Black. I'm reporting what I personally believe, and what I personally believe is that he'll be back in the WWE in absolutely no time. As soon as his contract expires, I see him coming back, and I don't see any reason for that to change. That's my experience with Malachi Black. Noob says, hello Mr. Colohue, how are you doing today? What are your thoughts on the first few names of the WWE ID program? Pardon me, most of them I don't know. As regards Xavier Steele, good shot. Leighton says, did you hear that Raw might be live in the afternoon in the UK on Netflix in January? That came from WrestleVotes, and yes I did. In the UK, that's going to be fantastic. In the US, that's going to be noon on a Monday. So I don't see it. They'd lose a lot of their audience to the working day. So I don't personally see it. I can see it being earlier though. For example, a 5 or 6 p.m, which over here in the UK would be 10 or 11 p.m. Much more achievable. But they are trying to change the hours of Raw and SmackDown because America is no longer their primary audience. HCar says, Tom, do you think WWE will buy TNA in the future? No. Thomas says, Tom, who are your early picks for the Rumble? Becky Lynch, Drew McIntyre. Becky Lynch, Drew McIntyre. Thank you, Declan. Appreciate you. The Rabbit says, hey, Tom. Hey, Rabbit. Laurie says, is Dirty Dom going to return to his dad, Ray? Not as of yet. Everton says, sorry, I'm late. Any big news I've missed? The top story was as regards Vince McMahon's impending return. Check it out. Cecil says, I'd think the Netflix deal would push the brand breakup to happen. Sorry about the broken sentence before. Got a lot going on, watching you on TV and following chat on Twitter. Appreciate you, Cecil. Spiderball says, I think the Street Profits were Vince's guys. Once Vince left, Street Profits didn't get much opportunities under Triple H. Certainly seems that way. Michael says, I've not seen Alex's name at all in a long time. I forgot about him. Yeah, he's one of many. One of many who quietly vanished from wrestling entirely. Yeah, it was a weird one. I remember him mocking me for taking time off for a mental health break. And then, when people got after him because he kept taking news from Charlotte Flair's camp, which was clearly contradictory to the actual story that was developing, he took a mental health break. I hope he learns from the situation. The Rabbit says, if they end the brand split, that's the only reason why we have 2 World Championship belts. If they end it, will it be only one? Not sure on that one. As I say, I expect it to be quietly forgotten. Corey says, Aleister Black coming back, kicking Big E and then being released was weird. Yeah, Nick Khan wasn't a fan. Spiderboss says, Alex McCarthy was one of the people who got angry with me after I gave you credit for Bayley's 2022 SummerSlam return. I remember Sean Rossap from Fightful posting essentially saying Tom Colohue is self-celebrating. If he was actually good at this, other people would be telling me about him. I remember him posting that. And honestly, I wouldn't say that was a bad thing to say. Because it's true. As I become better at this, I grow. As I share more information and become provably reliable, people decide to back me up. So, people like yourself, Spiderboss, you got the word out there. You spoke truth to power, and what did they do with that information? How many of you got shat on from a great height? How many of you got blocked? That's the world that we came to love under the people like Alex McCarthy. And that's why we don't miss him from the wrestling section. Sid says the YouTube and X Twitter is going perfect. Thank you, Sid. Honestly, the whole block change on Twitter is annoying as hell. Because I have people blocked just because I don't want anything to do with them. And honestly, I haven't missed them. Blocking Sean Ross Sapp like 5 years ago, genuinely one of the best things I've ever done. You don't need them. You don't need to see what they're doing. Their news is fucking everywhere. It's fine. Thank you again, Sid. HCast says, any news on WWE contract renewing? Not at this point. Jan says, if you have your own wrestling show, what would be the format for a 2 or 3 hour? What about the format for pay-per-view? It would be a 2-hour show. I wouldn't worry about the format for pay-per-view. If I had my own wrestling show, there'd be probably the same amount of pay-per-views in a pay-per-view, the same amount of promos in a pay-per-view as it would be in a typical TV. Honestly, I probably wouldn't even do pay-per-views. I'm only doing TV now anyway. Calvin says, Austin Theory is all of a sudden mentioning The Miz on Lowdown. Do you think he may be going back to his NXT way character? No. Jerry says, when do you think Tiffany Stratton will cash in Money in the Bank? Personally, I see it around Royal Rumble time. Jason says, was wondering if you've heard any movement on the possible new TV deal for TNA. There is some good, positive motion there. WWE are helping them to ensure a good TV deal. They are. They're helping to fill stadiums. They're helping to develop their talent. It's good news. Corey, I've been reporting on this one for a while. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, there was no concern by WWE that they'd be leaving. The offers on the table are said to be quite strong, and I expect them to keep that going. No news on Charlotte Flair at this point in time. She's doing well and should be returning soon. Spider-Boss says it'd be fun if Finn Balor ended up being kicked out of the Judgment Day after he said there's no leaders on this version. Finn Balor wasn't happy when Dominic got added to the World Heavyweight Championship #1 contenders match. Everton says, is Lance Anoa'i set to join the new Bloodline with Fatu as a tribal chief? If so, who else do you expect to join them? What about Zilla Fatu? Right, that is actually my next piece of news, so let's dive into it. Lance Anoa'i, as I posted on Twitter earlier, is being saved for Jacob Fatu's iteration of the Bloodline. We've got 39 likes on YouTube, one more gets it to 40. Let's keep that ball rolling. So, Jacob Fatu is set to be the 3rd tribal chief. It goes Roman Reigns, then Solo Sikoa, then Jacob Fatu. This story will take a long time to play out. It is not a case of in a couple of months Jacob Fatu is a tribal chief. That's not how it's going to go. Solo Sikoa will be built. He will then surpass Roman. Then Jacob Fatu will start to overtake him. First, Solo needs to have his moment in the spotlight. So, someone like Lance Anoa'i is joining NXT, being developed there, as are people like Hikuleo. Also, Tonga Loa is spending a lot of time at the Performance Center as well for unrelated reasons. There is going to be generations of the Bloodline. Generations of this. Don't expect to have them blow their wad in one moment. Triple H knows how to wait. The Bloodline, Paul Heyman in particular, is the biggest case of Bloodline blue balls you will ever see in your goddamn life. And you know what? It's the best storyline the WWE have ever done. So, I really can't argue with it. Galvin says if Becky Lynch returns, she will. I wonder if it will be hard for her to get back into the spot she was in before she went away. It won't. Entertainment says, how would they do the Crown Jewel champion versus champion thing if they just have one title moving forward? They wouldn't. The other Mike says, what's with all the inside scoop guys beefing? Can't we all just get along? As regards the inside scoop guys beefing, it seems to be blunt, the top guys punch down, and they punch down constantly. If what had happened is people had tried not to create this reputation that I don't know what I'm doing, when anyone who watches these shows knows better, literally, the people whose opinion I care about is you guys. You guys watch the shows. So you would know if I'm speaking utter garbage. An example of it, I said months ago, we would see Bloodline Civil War in War Games, Roman, Jay, Jimmy, Sammy on one side, Solo, Jacob, Tamatonga and Tongaloa on the other side. Dave Meltzer has reported this now. He could have confirmed what I reported. If I approached him and said, hey, You've not spotted, but I had already reported this. Can you put a byline and state that I've reported it first? You know what he'd do? He wouldn't. He's blocked me. He's spent several occasions reporting news that I've reported and basically trying to embarrass me in the attempt. Now, I don't want to be a guy to go on the attack here. That's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. But I am a guy who's going to defend myself. Because it's pretty much constant. Anything I do that earns positive attention also earns negative attention. And eventually you just got to say, all right. Eventually you just have to accept it. I am going to get death threats. Have done before. Funnily enough, it was around the same time as I mentioned about the Alex McCarthy thing. Only a couple of people had my direct phone number, and one of them sent me death threats. I'm going to get death threats. I'm going to get people trying to dunk on me. I'm going to get people trying to ratio me. I don't want to be that guy. I don't. I also want to share. I want to talk. I don't want to sit and hide. That's not me. So it's a difficult one, Mike. I would love it if we got along. Certainly a lot more news would get out because we'd all talk to each other. We'd check in with each other. That's how it should be. We could have a newsroom that's constantly running. But news is now profitable. Capitalists will rise to the top. And one thing I do want to mention, as regards certain sites and their paywalls, they sure got a lot of new subscribers and a hell of a lot of new income when they went after me. And that is a proven fact. Corey says, SRS seems kind of angry in my interactions with him. Most people would agree with that. Ashley says, Vince isn't coming back to WWE, is he? Just pop back to the beginning of the stream. All of my Vince McMahon news is there. Spiderboss says, I remember SRS unblocked me on Twitter to attack me because my friend Tommy and me were giving you credit for the Mercedes money news. Funny thing at the end, he blocked me again after he attacked me. Yeah, that's part of the playbook. Hector says, Tom, while I like your idea of Randy beating Cody for the title, I'd love for it to be Gunter once he drops the world title as a way to get his loss back from Crown Jewel because Gunter is, well, great. Baylor said, could you ever see WWE co-promote a TNA pay-per-view? They already do by having some of their stars appear on WWE programming. Spiderboss says, Jacob Fatu looks more as a tribal chief. No, he doesn't. At no point does he look like a tribal chief. He literally doesn't even talk. People were saying all this about Solo Sikoa before Solo Sikoa became tribal chief. Kieran says, new merch idea, a Bloodline blue ball shirt. I'll leave the graphic to you. Ouch. HGar says, any news on AJ Styles? Nothing at this point. King Azza says, Tom, the Bloodline segment tonight will be pure cinema, but hopefully won't be too long. And Declan says, still watching the pig. The Rabbit says, I say Jacob will become tribal chief after WrestleMania. That makes the most sense to me. I don't. I think that's when Solo Sikoa becomes the official tribal chief. Spiderboss says there's generations of the Bloodline with the Inoue family being such a big family. Rickham says, do you think we get a Bloodline 4.0 or it ends after 3.0 storyline? I think this keeps going until they run out of people. I think this storyline will still be going when I'm dead. Well, Six said, did you hear the bogus claim about Russo saying Triple H will be gone next year? That's why they brought in The Rock. Yeah, the guy just says anything at this point. This guy says, is Mike and Maria Kanellis still with AEW? Yeah, but not for long. HCAR says, any news on the Hardys showing up in NXT? They're not going to? There's no intention to my knowledge. Entertainment says, newsroom would be so cool. That's one of the reasons I started the Discord. So that we could all share news and share information. And so that when there's massive breaking news, we can all jump in there, talk about what's going on. I'd be live then as a host, and you guys would essentially be helping me to filter the news that people need. That's what's important. Cecil says, when Jay told Solo there's a reason we stayed away from Jacob on SmackDown, was that an early hint Jacob will betray Solo? Yeah. Spiderbot says, spoiler warning comes with the Mercedes money news, Becky news, and after that SRS and Meltzer came with news about Mercedes and Becky. Marcel says, I see him speak to you all on Monday time to go to work now, night shift. Fair enough, Marcel. Have a good night. Hopefully it runs pretty smooth for you. Marta says, got to keep the old guard on top. I found it funny that the IWC media is as political as 80s WWF and 90s WCW. Yeah, and there's definitely a Hulk Hogan at the top of it, isn't there? It is all ridiculous, and I try not to get involved in it. I'm venting today. I'm venting today because I'm not monetized and I'm pissed off. To be clear, it's not that I'm pissed off about being not monetized. I'm happy being not monetized right now. It's allowing me to explore different options. But I am pissed off that 4 years on, I still have to fight with these people to prove myself when anyone who watches these shows is not expecting me to prove myself because I already have. Spider-Boss says, I think the Bloodline storyline will keep going until Roman's kids and the Usos kids work on WWE. Y6, any thoughts on next releases? I'm not going to speculate on that. Not really, Jerry. I wasn't an Edgeheads guy. This guy says, have you heard of AEW's response to this week's ratings? No, they typically don't release a response. Thank you, Kieran. Appreciate that. As I says, will Jay return to being a single star after Survivor Series, or will he remain in the Bloodline story? Good question, and not one I expect a good answer to. Galvin says, can you imagine a storyline with the Bloodline and Judgment Day feuding? That would be dynamite. Dun, dun, dun. Bit of personal news before we get to the next, just to reiterate what I said at the top of the stream as well. My plan for the next 2 months, now that we've hit the 1 million mark, and anything after this is gravy, my plan is to take advantage of the fact that right now I'm not monetized. That allows me to essentially do what I want. I can swear more, first and foremost. I can multi-stream to more platforms. I can put more of my stuff on TikTok. I can put more of my stuff on YouTube Shorts. I can multi-stream to as many different platforms as I want. And that allows me to basically just do more by doing less. So, when I'm monetized, my focus is almost entirely on YouTube. You all know this. Let's spread the love. Let's get on Twitter. Let's try and grow there. Let's see what we can do. Let's keep that going. Let's see what these platforms can do for us. Because the whole point is to eventually filter views into YouTube. If people aren't following me on X, there's no one to filter. If people aren't following me on TikTok, there's no one to filter. If you haven't followed on X, please do so. It's at Colohue. If you haven't followed on TikTok, please do so at Tom Colohue. Just search Colohue. You will find me. On any platform I'm on, search Colohue. It's me. So yes, that is something worth considering, and that is what my plan is. More multi-streams, more spread out to eventually expand and then contract. That's the hope. That's the plan. You'll be seeing more of me. Please help if you may. Elimination Chamber has been confirmed for Toronto, Canada. The UK lost out in what the WWE hoped was a bidding war, but ended up being a pretty clear Canada wins. Tensions right now are high in the UK between certain private and public entities, but the Mayor of London could not confirm funding, apparently, due to the change in government. So he couldn't confirm what would be available to use, so he could not confirm a strong bid for the WWE. Elimination Chamber was available, but the UK governments were not able to come together in a way that would make it happen. It's a shame for the UK, but it does mean a decent amount of money for WWE as they continue to what will be a very lucrative year next year with more international commitments. Everton says, is it true that an undisputed tribal chief acknowledgement ceremony is planned for tonight? I believe that spoiler was posted by PWInsider. Spider-Boss says, who do you think will take the US title from LA Knight? Personally, I think Andrade is the guy. Sid said, have any wrestlers liked or reposted or commented on your posts on Twitter? Yeah, quite a few. I've had a lot of love from Shayna Baszler, Rhea Ripley, Cody Rhodes, Xavier Woods, CJ Perry quite a bit, Ronda Rousey. There was quite a bit from Ronda Rousey, Mercedes Money, not as much recently, but Mercedes Money. A lot of wrestlers. There's a few that follow me that you might be surprised by. It's worth checking out. That you might want to see as well. I've engaged with quite a lot of wrestlers on Twitter, and it's a lot of fun. They're people. Reach out to them like they're people and you'll go far. Kieran says, I'll say this, there's only one place I come for news. I found those engagement farming accounts even more maddening than the news accounts. Yeah. Oh, Wrestling World CC is so painful, but they cracked the code of Twitter. First traps, reactable content. If this doesn't work out, I'll just change my Twitter from Tom Colohue, just call it TDC Wrestling. and just post female wrestlers' first traps and re-report news without crediting anyone. And before you know it, I'll be king rich. Should be that simple. And it is. Ashley says, will you be on Threads more? Yes, I'm exploring that as a possibility as we speak. Threads is an area that I'm hearing good things about, that it's been making the right choices. And honestly, I'm excited for that, to get more involved in that. I'm exploring over the next week or so, and I will be committing more time to that. Facebook as well is somewhere I'm going to be exploring. Bailey says the 10 women from this week's NXT tag team match could legitimately all be main roster stars within 2 years. HCar says, is there any chance you will appear on Wrestling Escape podcast for Wrestling Days? If he wants me there, I'm more than happy to jump on, but it's up to him, it's his platform. Erin says, I'm excited to see where your plans take the channel. Me too, Erin, me too. Spider-Boss says, it'll be fun to watch the OG Bloodline segment on SmackDown tonight. Hector says, I think my favourite thing about Dom Mysterio might be his love for chicken tendies isn't just a gimmick, but a way of life. Joey says, hey Tom, how's it going? Going well, thank you, Joey. Does the UK want to invest in a bigger PLE like SummerSlam or Mania? I've reported on that one over the last few weeks why a certain big pay-per-view might be coming to the UK and why it is a private company that is making it happen. Matter says, any news about which pay-per-view is coming to Australia in winter, your summer? At this point, no, because it doesn't look like there is going to be a pay-per-view in Australia in winter from the WWE. Dominic says, any more watch parties? Not at this point in time. I have a full-time job and I need my sleep. I'm a parent after all. Cecil says, Tom, a week ago I shattered my femur. Not in a great place. Look forward to hearing from you and being in this community. Go back to work. I'll help you. You're helping me. Forget the haters. Appreciate you, Cecil. Sorry to hear that, mate. I hope you're recovering well. That does not sound fun. Spider-Boss says, last time Canada hosted Elimination Chamber, Roman defeated Sami Zayn. Edge and Beth Phoenix defeated Rhea and Finn Balor. King Azza says, do you see Liv holding the championship till WrestleMania 41? Yes. Calvin says, they haven't done much with Legado del Fantasma, and yet Legado del Fantasma is still happy to be there. Joey says, do you have any news on the WWE ID program? Will the signings start in NXT right away? It depends. Technically, they're not signed. WWE has first refusal on them. Kieran says, I do first drafts, but the boobs are hairier. To be fair, mine too. Ben says, who's your all-time favourite wrestler, male and female? Triple H, Becky Lynch, not even a question. Irish. I was a Becky Lynch guy pretty much from the moment she arrived on the main roster, because nobody was a Becky Lynch guy when she first arrived on the main roster, and I felt very annoyed. Also, I'm Irish. And also, she's real good. Joey says, do you know if there'll be a women's War Games match? Feels like there's been zero build to it. In the absence of Rhea Ripley, the chance of that happening dramatically decreased. Everton says, when do you expect the Final Testament and the White Six to have their first match? Probably about 2 months from now. They really drag it out with the White Six. Calvin says, American Maid hasn't been booked very good since forming. Julius Creed is too good, looking to lose a lot. Calvin says, I turned 30 on Monday. Happy early birthday. And Ben says, Trent Seven turned heel on Mike Bailey. Trent Seven low-blowed Mike Bailey on last night's TNA. Some nice get wells for Cecil. I appreciate that, guys. If everyone can say what I wish Cecil goodwill, that'd be great. Please do keep that going. I love the community aspect, and that's certainly an element of that. Jonathan Coachman. So wrong. Jonathan Coachman has quoted a figure of $2 million a year that Becky Lynch apparently demanded from the WWE. I can confirm that it is utter bollocks. Complete bollocks. WWE's offer to Becky Lynch before she left was substantially above $2 million per year. And it was not Becky Lynch demanding anything. It was WWE saying, you are worth this much. And my word, it was a lot. You know how Sasha Banks, Mercedes Money, was the most well-paid woman in wrestling? Not for long, and that was only because Ronda Rousey was no longer in wrestling anyway. It's a lot of money being offered to Becky Lynch. Jonathan Coachman, completely wrong. Completely. Also, it's been mentioned, confirmed by Fightful, Jacob Fatu does not owe any charity any money. There was briefly a delay in a payment going through that Jacob Fatu was not aware of. When Jacob Fatu was approached by the charity in question, he checked his records, said, I'm sorry, I'll get that to you right now, and got them to them right then. This was an oversight, it was an accident, it was immediately rectified. This was months ago. The fact that this has been brought up is bad faith acting, and I have serious questions about anyone spreading completely false rumours in the effort to essentially ruin someone's career for no reason. Spider-Boss says, how to make fans boo a women's champion, add Dominic Mysterio and fans will be booing. Yes, she's after all a heel. Juan said, is Snapchat a possibility for you as well? Not at this point in time, no. I'm trying to do a lot, but I'm not trying to do everything. Erin says, I wish NXT's 10 women tag got the War Games match. That would have been so fun to watch. Ben says, Chyna is my all-time favourite women's wrestler. To be fair, she had a presence that could not be denied. Joey says, it seems like there's more interest in a women's War Games match than a main roster one. I'd imagine you're meaning in NXT there. Bailey says, Tom, what is the significance of seeing the names of Paul Levesque and Lee Fitting as ending credits on the shows? Is this an entree to submitting the shows for industry awards? Yeah. They're trying... Under Vince McMahon, they always tried to make it a legitimate sports show. Under Triple H and Nick Khan, they recognise that the best option is to make it a reality TV show. So that's what they're doing. No H Khan, no news on Trick Williams versus Ridge Holland. Hector says, I think it was a good shout during the Wyatt 6 segment on Raw to call back to when The Miz constantly talked down Bo and Curtis Axel. It shows Bo hasn't forgotten now that he has a true family. H Khan says, any news on NXT? Yes. Every week. Every week. This guy says, reasons for Indy and Tegan's release, no plans to use them. Guy says, how long is Rhea Ripley injured for? I expect her back for WrestleMania, but do not expect her back before the Royal Rumble. I'm hearing that Hulk Hogan has been reaching out to contact the WWE, looking to make an appearance on WWE programming and I quote, capitalise on his current momentum. Triple H is not keen. Nick Khan is. We'll see how this goes. Hulk Hogan, of course, has been in the public eye recently for several appearances in support of new president-elect Donald Trump. He's looking to make appearances on WWE TV in order to make that happen. I'm also hearing that he asked a representative to reach out to AEW, and that did not go well. Fun. Mada just says, that doesn't work for me, bro. Spider-Ball says, Roxanne has got pinned twice after her last title defense. It shows she's more vulnerable now. I think Julia will still be the one who beats Roxanne for the NXT Women's title. Rumours were she was going to be the champion and break Asuka's streak. I don't see it. HCAR says, any news on Alexa Bliss and Carmella returning? They're fit. They're ready to go. The WWE haven't got the stories ready for them. Kieran just says, Hogan, you silly tit. Calvin says, they don't keep Ethan in the NXT title picture. What would they do with him? Anything else? Lots of possibilities. Jerry says, what is your favourite wrestling game of all time? Mine is WWF WrestleFest, the arcade game. I do remember playing that way back in the day. I'm a WrestleMania 2000 guy. I know that No Mercy is more popular, but the actual road to WrestleMania, where you wrestled once a week, was fantastic. I tell you what, though, I only ever lost one match, and I never was in the Royal Rumble, and I never main evented WrestleMania, because every year I'd end up with a created wrestler in the King of the Ring tournament against Kane. And every year, because Kane was simply higher rated, I'd lose that one match, and as such, I was never in contention for the Royal Rumble, never in contention for WrestleMania main event. The game didn't make sense, but I'm not bitter. Joey says, is Vince trying to get a pardon from Donald Trump? There have been conversations about Donald Trump supporting Vince, as I previously reported. White Six says, do you think Raw and SmackDown have to up their game with NXT looking very strong? Nope, because if NXT is looking very strong, Raw and SmackDown will just take their wrestlers. The other Mike says, I've never envisioned Coachman of all people being so bitter. What happened to him? Bitter's right. Spider-Boss says, personally, I would love to see Stephanie Vaca winning the NXT Women's title. She's been doing well since her NXT debut. I completely agree. Last piece of news is as regards NXT and a former NXT Women's Champion. I'm told that the door is open for Mandy Rose to return to the WWE at any point that she decides to. I'm told that the door is open for Mandy Rose to return to the WWE at any point that she decides to. There would be clauses in her contract that would mean any adult content being filmed would have to take place off WWE programming. If in fact they allowed her to continue, that would be part of negotiations for it. But it has been confirmed to me that the door is open. Kieran says, Coachman, you silly tit. Hector says, what did you think of the mix of the old ECW stars for this past week's NXT? Do you think it worked or just a case of nostalgia? Pure nostalgia. For me, HCar says, did you see Bobby Lashley, MVP and Shelton Benjamin joined AEW? Yes, and I reported it would happen. Matt says, cheers, Tom. Appreciate you. And Joey says, does Mandy want to get back in wrestling with the amount of money she's making from OnlyFans? She doesn't have an OnlyFans. She has something similar, but she doesn't have an OnlyFans. I'd be interested to see what happens there, because she's making a lot of money from it. I think she'd only return if they allowed her to continue. That would be an issue. Y6, the only reports that I've seen have been from me. And what I've reported is that she's not interested at current because she's capably making more money elsewhere. No HCar, no reports about Tamina Snuka, and I don't expect there to be any for a long time. That has been Spoiler Warning. It is 5 minutes to the hour, and I would just like to say a huge thank you to everyone who has joined us on all of the different platforms that we have been shared on. I want to say thank you to you for watching, and thank you very kindly to everyone who will be here in the future as well. Massive thanks. We'll see you again soon. I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.